It went so badly wrong on Saturday, losing at home 4-0 to Bournemouth. Subsequently, Mark Robins parted company with the club. This afternoon, I've spoken to the Huddersfield Town chairman, Dean Hoyle, and started by asking him what exactly happened after Saturday's match.
Well, it's an interesting situation. I wasn't at the game. I was on holiday. After the game, obviously, we had a catastrophic defeat performance. Response to the players, I put a call straight into my chief exec, Nigel Clibbons, and he said Mark's approached him. Mark's going to give me a ring. Mark dealt with the press, and he gave me a ring. It was quite simple. Mark said to me, he said he felt he'd lost the respect of the fans. He felt he couldn't do right for doing wrong, and the fans were totally against him, and he could not see any way of recovering that position. He also said he felt the players had gone. He also admitted that he picked the wrong formation in 3-5-2 against Bournemouth. And he said to me, look, he says, I'm not a quitter. I don't want to be seen as a quitter, which is fine. He said he probably should have gone last season when we changed his backroom staff, when we tried to support him. We identified last season that his backroom staff weren't giving us what required, so we helped him along and changed him and tried to be supportive. But he felt maybe that was a time when he should have gone, and we should have had a chat then. But at the same time, he realised I'd tried to be very loyal to him and give him support, and he really wanted to get it right and repay us at the club as well. But he didn't want to quit. But at the same time, he said, look, I've got the best interest of Huddersfield Town at heart. I like working with you, Nigel and Ross. But at the same time, I want to do what's right for the club. And that's where we need to base our chat. So obviously from a chairman's point of view, once you hear that, there really is no going back. I'm with part of company, which is very disappointing because, the performance on Saturday was totally unacceptable. There's no point hiding or trying to disguise that. But at the same time, I was willing to give him more time. Yeah, obviously everybody knew he was he didn't have as much slack as last season. He had to get things right. But it was absolutely flat, and we need to move on, and that's where we are.
Did you try at all to convince him? Because it just sounds like he was so down after that. If you felt the fans were against him, the players had gone, that everything that could have gone wrong on Saturday did go wrong. But had it been a 4-0 win, very different picture. So did you try and say to him, look, this is only one match in, let's give it a bit more time?
If it had been a 4-0 win, we wouldn't have been having the conversation, I can assure you. Look, quite simple, over time, chairman, managers, they have good relationships, or they should have good relationships. You get to know the manager quite well. I think Mark's been with us now for 18 months. Lee had been with me for, I think, 3 years. Simon hadn't been with me as long, but what you do get to know, you get to know your managers. And when Mark, the tone of his voice, what he said to me, he was being serious. It wasn't it wasn't looking for me to try and boost him up. It was a serious conversation. No, I didn't convince him to just try and stay because I knew that was the end. What Mark has always said to me, and he actually said this to me, and I think this is refreshing in football. What Mark did actually say to me is when he first took the job up, he said, you know something, Dean? He said, if it doesn't work out and I feel it's not going right, I won't waste your time. We'll have a chat and we'll part company. If they feel something, that's what he's done. And all credit to him because, he's a good lad, but it just hasn't worked out.
We can all be wise with hindsight, can't we? But looking back, do you now wish that you'd gone your separate ways at the end of last season rather than going through the whole process of pre-season and recruitment and all of that, only for it to come to an end so soon into the new season?
Well, of course I would, absolutely. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. What I've tried to do as a chairman is give him time, support, and give him every opportunity to succeed. But obviously, I haven't got a crystal globe. I never expected this to happen after the defeat. But for one, I never expected to have the defeat like we did. And secondly, I never expected the manager to say what he said to me. But that's life. We move on. It's football. and this is an opportunity now for us to get it right again.
How concerned are you at the way it's been responded to, this decision? It's been a very big story right across the country. Perhaps people who don't know or follow Huddersfield Town regularly will say, why on earth have they sacked the manager one game in? That must hurt you personally when you feel that criticism is being directed the club's way.
Well, straight away, when something like this happens, the first thing we can't really do is go out and do the press, because what we have to do is make sure that we get everything lined up behind the scenes. We obviously had a big morning on Sunday morning. We had to get Mark Lillis and everybody there. We addressed the players, and Monday is the same situation. We had to make sure everything was working behind the scenes, and now we can start to approach the press. But we've got to be careful here. Mark Robbins was not sacked. We came to an agreement where Mark thought it wasn't working, and like I just explained, that's where it comes to an end. But what we need to do now really is move on. We want a new manager. We'll take our time. We've got to get the right man, and getting the right man isn't always easy. Let's be fair, but we're going to try and get the right man. We're looking for somebody who has done it, and I think that's important. Somebody who has done it, and really we want now is a leader and a motivator, because I think what you saw on Saturday is players who really were kind of looking for help as well. So I want somebody now who can lead and motivate them. And to be honest, that's what we're going to do. And there's other things as well, let me explain how we work. But because there's a lot of speculation, we've had lots of criticism. The manager always has the final say and a veto on players and positions. That's it, end of. No way have we ever put a player into a manager and made him sign what he didn't want. Every player at Huddersfield Town has been there by the manager saying they want them. Ross Wilson, he has a team of scouts. He identifies the positions, the options, not the positions, sorry, he identifies the options. He provides information to the manager for his decision, and it's the manager's decisions. Nigel and Ross work together to get the deals done, and we all get on very well, And the other thing as well, which I think is an interesting one, I've always backed the managers from Lee to Simon to Mark. In the last 12 months, I've spent in excess of £3.5 million on players. I've always backed the manager with players. If they want one, and we all agree to the right players, I will always back the manager. But at the same time, we also have issues at the club, don't we, as well? Because there's been a lot of negativity around. It affects a lot of people. Let me just remind people how far we've come. Before I took over, our star summer signing was Malvin Kamara. We have moved on a long, long way. There's too much negativity around the place. Maybe the negativity is a minority, but unfortunately, the minority are the most vocal. And something? The club feels it. I feel it personally. And something? I'll be straight with you. I don't like it. I think it needs to stop.
It's fascinating listening to Dean Hoyle and what it's like, the reality of being a chairman, and some more detail about Mark Robbins leaving the club at the weekend. There is a lot more to come. Stay tuned for more coming up straight after the Channel News.
West Yorkshire.
Responsibility for what's happened at the club with Mark Robbins' departure and how things have turned out.
Look, I backed Mark Robbins to be the manager of this football club, and I tried to give him time. You listen to all the punters and all the experts, and what they say is you've got to give your manager time. The fans at Huddersfield Town, they might be the minority, but the minority are always the most vocal. Those guys made Mark's mind up to part company with Huddersfield Town Football Club. Let's be fair. Gavin Ingesky, the player we just got from Nottingham Forest on Saturday, he actually thought he was getting booed when he was being substituted. And he was gutted. I think he was in tears in the dressing room. He didn't understand it because he thought he played well. What they didn't realise, the fans were booing Mark Robbins to take him off. But this is what we're up against, and this is football. Social media, absolute nightmare, because it's always the people on social media and all the internet forums. It's the minority. We're always the most vocal. They have direct contact with you through the electronic communications, and it's always those people who will never turn up at fans forums. I go to a lot of fans forums. People say to me, how do you want questions directed? I'll say you can ask me whatever you want. I'll give you an honest answer. But these people never turn up because they won't face you. They won't get you face to face. And at the end of the day, what we need positivity. There's lots to be positive about. You know, look where we've come from. We're the only football club in West Yorkshire who's got a stake in our own ground. And it's taken a long time. We're the only football club that's done it. Bradford City, our tenants, and Leeds United at this moment in time, our tenants. We're the only football club in West Yorkshire who own our own training ground. It's not a bad platform, and that's what we need to be positive about, get things right, and move forward. And that's my view.
One final issue, just retrospectively, before, as you say, you know, we are all keen to look forward and look at what happens next, is the issue of players and the transfer kitty. And you rightly say, you know, you've always backed your manager, but there is still criticism coming towards the club that you haven't spent enough to be competitive at the top of the division. What would you say to that?
We can never be competitive at the top of the championship, yeah? Well, I'm in charge because two things. Firstly, I don't want to line money into a football club, and I've always said that and be consistent. And secondly, we don't have the financial clout within the club to do that. And I also believe I'm not prepared to break financial fair play rules. I'm not prepared to put the club into debt, because I'll tell you now, it took 10 years to get this club on an even keel after administration. And we're still feeling effects now. We're still feeling certain effects now where we have lost income streams because we had to sign them off in the administration. And we're still feeling that now. So I'm not prepared to go down that route. So for me, people may say, look, Dean, you're taking this club as far as you can go. You know, and if people say that to me, then you know something, I've got a tough choice to make. But if that's what the fans want, fantastic. But don't always think the grass is greener on the other side. But if that's what they want, no problem. I'll go. Quite happy. But I don't want to go. I want to make this club successful.
I think the difficult... Sorry, again, to interrupt you.
Whenever I've got the support of the supporters, I will do my utmost to do it. But at the moment in time, you have got to question. You have got to question.
I suppose the difficulty is that people make comparisons, don't they? And it's very easy to do that without having access to all, you know, the full figures right in front of you. But we'll look at the result against Bournemouth on Saturday and see that they spent £3 million on a striker who then goes and scores 2 goals. And everybody goes home and goes, well, why hasn't Dean Hoyle done that for us? You know, he's worth a few quid. Why hasn't he spent some money on a signing like that? So can you understand why that fans get frustrated from that perspective, rightly or wrongly?
No, absolutely not. People look at the facts, it's quite simple. Do you know, I'll ask you this question, do you know how much money Bournemouth lost in the season they got promoted from Division 1 to the Championship? And since then, they have accelerated their spending. Do you know how much they lost that season?
No, I'll hold my hands up. You've got greater knowledge than me on that.
£15 million. One season. Now, if you want me to take that approach, then for one, it's not going to happen. I'll get somebody in who could take that approach, although it could be very difficult. But that's not the way I want to do it. And I've always been quite open, honestly. We are a buying and selling club. We need to make profit on players to keep the club sustainable. We run a very competitive budget. But at the moment, the issue we have got is the players and the squad are underperforming. That's not to say we have a complement of players which we're happy with. We've identified players this summer, of which Mark has decided he didn't want. We could have signed lots more players. We're short on certain positions. We're aware of that. But at the same time, Mark always said he's not prepared to bring the players in until he's 100% happy with the players he can find to come to Huddersfield Town, which keeps us within the financial fair play rules, and that's the way we're going to play it. So for me, can I accept the criticism? No, I can't, because I think what I've put into the club is nothing short of, well, I think it's very good, actually. It's cost me a lot of money. I think we've got a fantastic platform. But like I say, you know, I'm pretty easygoing. If people don't want me there, fantastic, you know, tell me, and I'll move on. And I'll make sure, hopefully, it can go to the right people. But that's football, isn't it? You cannot please everybody.
Let's look forward then. As you say, you've outlined briefly some of the things that you're looking for in a new manager, somebody who's been there and done it. So that to me suggests somebody who has already got championship experience of getting a team out of this division. Is that fair to say that you wouldn't be looking for somebody from a lower league to make the step up and see what they can do at Huddersfield? You want tried and tested?
more tried and tested, but I'm not going to say whether they're going to come from which division. But yeah, we're wanting somebody who's a leader of men, somebody who can motivate and inspire, tactical nous, a football style of play. Maybe we do need to crank the style up slightly from a pure passing team, but that's not. But we're not going to go long ball. But we just need somebody who can come in, motivate, inspire, and be a leader of men, and that's what we're looking for now.
Would you consider appointing from within at all? Because looking at the youth setup, there's been huge success.
It will be an external appointment.
And timescale-wise, clearly, yes, you don't want to make a rushed decision. You want to consider all the options, but I suppose time is of the essence, isn't it?
Yes. Consider all the options. There is still monies and budgets to spend for the new manager to come in. I'm fully supportive. I want to give the new manager time. But at the same time, we didn't expect this to happen, so we have been caught with our pants down, to be honest. We didn't expect Mark to say what he said to us, but we are where we are, and we've got to take it the positive as a reason to get things right. We've had some very good applicants going forward. The interview process is starting very shortly, and we would look to be in a position very shortly to make an announcement.
And ideally, before the end of the transfer window, so whoever comes in can cast their eye about. And
don't get me wrong, if people think this is a reason for me not to spend money, it's absolute bonkers. They need to look at my track record. I've probably spent more at this football club on transfers than any other chairman possible. But at the same time, we've got to make sure the players who come in are the right players and they have the right value and they want to play for Huddersfield Town for the right reasons. They've got to get it right. And at the same time, I want a manager to come in who I can be absolutely supportive of and see a long-term plan through. And I wanted that with Mark. It hasn't worked out. But, we didn't sack him. And I think that's the key point here.
What's then the aim for this season? As you say, it's been a turbulent start, but hopefully things will get sorted quickly. So what constitutes success for you going forward now? When we have a conversation in May, what's the aim?
Look, you know something? This is an interesting one because at the football club, I've always taken the approach, and I do in life, honesty is the best policy. And you try and tell people your views and where you want to go. But when things don't go quite right, the vocal minority throw it back at you to say, you said this, you said that, you said this. Well, we're not all perfect. We do make mistakes. What I would say is we want to finish as high as possible, and we don't want to be around the bottom. That's my view. I'm not prepared to say where I want to finish. I know in my head, but if I quote, we want to finish first, 15th, 20th, fourth from the bottom, then people always hold it against me. And it's something I'm becoming to realise very quickly, that I want to be as open and honest with fans as possible, but actually it's backfiring a little bit. So maybe a little bit of a different approach for the foreseeable future.
Finally then, Dean, everybody knows how passionate you are about Huddersfield Town, and they'll hear that in your voice in this conversation this evening, that at the end of the day you're a fan of the club as well as the man with the money. When it gets difficult like this, and it can be so frustrating, do you ever want to throw your hands up and go, you know what, I don't need this sort of hassle, I can stay on my sun lounger and have a nice quiet life? Is there any chance of you just falling out of love with Huddersfield Town to an extent that you would go, right, enough is enough now?
That depends whether the fans fall out of love with me. And I think it's as simple as that, because I don't want to be around somewhere where I not want. If they want to give my support, and the telling tale for me will be this one. The next manager who comes in, it will be the board's choice, and if the fans do not get behind the next manager, if they do not get behind the next manager, then that will tell me a lot about the way I need to put forward. So for me, if they want me on board, they've really got to get behind the guy. And it's their choice. It's their choice. It's their club. It's their club. But at the same time, everybody needs a leader. I try and lead the club in the direction I do. Don't get it always right, but I'm an honest kind of guy. So from my view, it will tell me a lot how the fans react to the next manager.
Fascinating.